Hi, and so with the latest alpha build for the Battle for Azeroth, professions have been put into the alpha at last. A lot of them can't really be tested seriously because although you can get ore in order to test the professions that use that, beasts don't seem to be skinnable. Certainly none of the ones I've come across are skinnable. I've run around with herbalism, not been able to find any herbs either. I've not found any cloth to do with tailoring. I can't disenchant anything as an enchanter, so it's all a little bit screwy at the moment. But what it does mean is we can see the sort of things that we're going to be able to craft in there. And what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to go through everything we can craft, of course. A lot of the things are the things we would normally expect. I'm not going to cover those. What I'm going to cover are some of the more unexpected things. Now, one thing that is a little unexpected, or certainly was for me, that, and I'm talking about primary professions here, I'm not going to cover the secondary professions just yet because there's not a lot to do with those at the moment. But most of the primary professions can craft some sort of weapon. So basically, almost all of them can craft for you some weapon or offhand or something very close to it. So leatherworking, they can craft bows and they can also craft fist weapons. Now alchemy, this isn't a weapon as such, but it is a piece of equipment. They can craft trinkets, but they can't craft any actual weapons. That's one of the two primary professions that can't craft a weapon. The other one being a tailor. Now, enchanters are back to crafting wands. In the very early days in vanilla, you could craft wands. They weren't all that brilliant. I'm going to guess these aren't going to be all that brilliant either. Note the item level is sort of a bit screwy at the moment. In fact, if I put this one up here, this is a big surprise to me. Engineering can also craft weapons, muscling in on my favourite blacksmithing profession. But you can see here they can craft maces. They don't do anything particularly special other than, you know, be maces. But there's some nice captions here. This is my favourite one. So the item's called the Precision Attitude Adjuster. Caption underneath, for best use, keep striking until target can no longer argue back. What I find amazing is that, you know, the races you associate with engineering are goblins and gnomes, both fairly diminutive. I can only imagine it's intended to be striking the ankles. But anyway, jewel crafters are going to be able to craft staves. Now, staves could be crafted a couple of expansions ago, but it was scribes that did those. Now it's going to be jewel crafters, which, you know, you sort of go, you know, make a stick, put a gem on the end of it, and, well, there's jewel crafters in into it. And scribes can still make the offhands, though, so they still get in on the act as well. So basically, everyone apart from tailors and alchemists can make weapons, but all of the primary professions, the ones that aren't gathering, can make you some equipment at any rate. So you can be equipped by every single profession realistically there. Now, let's have a look at some of the individual professions, the most notable things you can craft. Again, I'm not going to go through all the ones you'd sort of expect. So with alchemy, there's a number of utility potions. They're even classed as utility potions, including this one here, the Lightfoot potion. Increases movement speed by 150%. There's another one that gives you invisibility, a favourite of Mythic Plus Dungeoneers there. But here's a really interesting one. So transmutations are back, and you can transmute all sorts of nonsense into other nonsense. But here is the most disturbing and the most interesting at once. The Quivering Sack. Yes, you can transmute meat into a pet. Usually works the other way around, doesn't it? But of course we have to remember that in Legion, leather workers were able to turn skins, i.e. dead animal and bits of dead animal, into a mount, i.e. a living animal. So maybe it should come as no surprise, this Frankenstein alchemical product here. So as you can see there, duration 7 days. So I'm guessing this is one of those things where you craft it and then you keep it in your bags for 7 days. At the end of 7 days, you click on it and see what you get. You know, I imagine some of them would be effectively stillborn, but maybe a pet in there, and maybe there's some particularly desirable pets with a very, very low chance to be acquired there. It's bind when picked up, so only alchemists will be able to get these. So this is a pet that only alchemists can get. Presumably they can sell the pet after it, though, I would imagine. On to tailoring, they've got a few interesting ones. So the bags, this is a little bit strange. Now, bear in mind, this is alpha. There'll be some patterns that are going to change. Some have just been sort of thrown in there with a lot of thought. There's two types of bag. Apparently they can make the deep sea bag and the embroidered deep sea bag. You can see here the embroidered one is 32 slot. The deep sea bag is a 30 slot bag. But at the moment, they both use the same amount of materials. Now, given that we can't actually get hold of almost all of the materials needed for these things, I doubt they've been thinking seriously about the material costs. So I don't think that's going to be the case, of course, when we go there. But what it may be, maybe we can make the 30 slot bags really cheap. And then there's the option for the 32 slot bags as well. I don't know. But bags are back there. Obviously, the deep sea bandage, I talked about first aid already twice now. But quite recently about that. So Taylor's going to be able to make bandages. There's a couple of types there. Now, in terms of the cloth armor, most of it's just bog standard cloth armor, but there's a couple of cloaks that are of interest. They've got special abilities on them. One of them, poor quality English there. I'm putting a report about that. Hopefully they'll fix that one. But reduces the amount of threat you generate from spells and abilities. So I'm not quite sure about this one. Does that mean threat's going to become an issue for tanks again? Seems a little bit of a strange effect to put on a cloak if threat isn't going to be a major issue. But, there it is. And another one that reduces damage from falling on a cloak there. On to leatherworking. Now, a couple of interesting items for leatherworking in terms of going around the waters there. Because remember, we're going to islands. Zandalar and Kulturas are both islands. A lot of water around them. So leatherworkers can make a diving helmet, which allows you to breathe underwater. Lasts 15 minutes, it says there. You can also make a diving suit, which increases your swim speed by 100%. Lasts 15 minutes. It doesn't say anything about a cooldown on that. So it might well be that these are consumable items. And that you have, when you use it, you've used it up and you're going to have to make more if you want to do this on a regular basis. Seems fair enough to me. On to blacksmithing. Now, blacksmiths are getting skeleton keys back, so you can open lock boxes. It says they're up to 600 lockpicking skill. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm coming to inscription in a moment, but scribes can also make something that can undo lock boxes. So their origami skills are really coming on now. You can use a bit of paper to open a lock. But the interesting thing is on the inscription one, it says up to 550 lockpicking skill. Now, I don't know whether that's because they're umming and ahhing about what level they want it to be able to do it to, or they deliberately want the blacksmithing one to be better than the inscription one. I don't know why that would be. Again, remember, it's alpha. All these sort of numbers are very much up for grabs. In terms of other things, blacksmithing, of course, making armour and weapons, as you'd expect. But there's also a mount in there. And again, it's something they share with another profession at the moment. I can't see this lasting. So, it says here, monolite reinforced chassis can make this particular mount. Here's the mount. It looks quite nice. There's lots of different recolours of this in the mounts tab at the moment. Now, it looks much more for this one that this would be an engineering pattern, surely. And sure enough, if you look in engineering, you can also see a different pattern. The name of the pattern is very different, but the mount is still the same. So here we have a situation where you've got a mount which needs two major components to craft. One is made by blacksmith, the chassis. The other is made by engineers, the engine. So one of each profession there to make the two bits, and then you can combine them together to make that particular mount. So back to inscription now, and there's a few extra things they're going to be able to make. Of course, we've got the scrolls for the raid buffs that people are now going to get. So here, for example, War Scroll of Battle Shout. So warriors are going to get Battle Shout. Here's a scroll that you can use to produce one if you're without a warrior there. But the most interesting thing, the most exciting new things that's coming for scribes are the contracts. So these are scrolls that you can use. And what it means is when you complete world quests, you will get rep with a particular faction depending on the scroll you use. So the one being shown here is the contract House Proudmoore. So you use this scroll, go around, do your world quest, and you will, with each world quest, get rep with House Proudmoore. Okay, so whichever rep you're particularly wanting to focus on, you've got a way of getting more rep for it by using these contracts which are available from scribes. On to jewel crafting now. Of course, we've already talked about the fact that they can make weapons, they can make staves. Everything else is what you'd expect, you know, the rings, gems, and so on. But there is a particularly interesting gem. Now look at this one, Insightful Rubellite. Plus 5% experience. So if you can get yourself some leveling gear with sockets in it, then that suggests that we can sock it up for plus experience. We can level a bit quicker there. In particular, what it may mean, if I'm not sure about main characters, if you're gonna, when the expansion goes live, get straight into it, obviously it's gonna be some time before people start to sell these at a reasonable price on the auction house. But maybe for your later outs, if they've got Legion gear and that's got sockets in it, you can get a few of these and help them level up a little bit quicker there. Not sure whether this is going to stay in or not, but it would get my seal of approval. It just seems a little bit strange that with what Blizzard have been doing recently to, basically nerf our ability to level up quickly in the older content, that they would now give us something else that we can use as well. But there we go, that's that. Bit of a strange one, but a very interesting one. Now on to enchanting. And there's some bizarre ones here. So the first one, the gloves. Basically, there's different glove enchants, each of which increases your speed with a particular profession. So there's one here, shown here, culture and crafting. Just when you're producing anything, it just reduces the cast time of producing. If you're going to produce, like, for alchemists, this might be useful. There's no useful glove enchants from the point of view, by the way, of increasing the power of your characters. You may as well have one of these. If you're an alchemist, you'll be able to cast potions and flasks much more quickly, so it'd be very useful for them. There's other ones for herbalism, mining, skinning, and surveying as well. So it just reduces the cast time on whichever one of those you're doing. I suppose if people have got several professions, then it might well end up that you carry several gloves around with you. Can be doing without that. The next one is a bit weird. Enchanting Swift Hearthing. Permanently enchants your braces to increase the speed of your Hearthstone cast while in Kulturas or Zandalar. So again, one of these features that means basically everyone's paladins. There are other things as well. Then there's the enchant weapons. Permanently enchant a weapon to sometimes increase crit. So you've got on that. So there's usual typical weapon enchants that you may expect there as well. And then on to engineering. So engineering, last but not least, of course, because you always get lots of very interesting things with engineering. So with engineering, there's a number of bombs. For example, this one here, which can freeze an enemy, stunning them for 10 seconds. You've also got the mount we've already talked about there. Scopes are back. So, of course, without the artifact weapons, we're going to coming back to scopes. This one looks particularly annoying if you're into arenas or PvP in general. A hunter with this one, slowing you by 15% for 3 seconds each time they not only jump around all over the place, but when you think you're going to get hold of them, they cast this on you. Yeah, you can probably be doing without that, but never mind. Now, in terms of some of the more interesting ones, albeit, silly ones that we come to expect of engineering. The deployable attire rearranger. So summons a device that will allow you to alter the look of your armor. Now, I haven't made one of these, so I can't really say. It may well be that this is something you put down and everyone in your party or raid can use as well. Device lasts for up to 2 minutes, so a lot of pre-pull nonsense we're going to be getting in raids if that's the case. Disclaimer: due to the functionality of this product, slight headaches, nausea, and race and or gender changes have been known to occur. In other words, you're going to be turned into a gnome. Use with caution. Yes, I think I will. Or rather not use it. The next one, I like the sound of this one. Electroshock Mount Motivator. So use increases mounted movement speed by 10% for 10 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. Increased motivation may cause your mount to become disorientated. So although you can get some extra speed out of it, if you push it too far, you might end up going nowhere. Does not stack with other bonuses to mounted speed. And then the last one here, again in the lines of engineering, always having really good effects, but some downside, which means it can blow up in your face. This one's a weird one. So a surface skimmer. Deploy a boat which will immediately begin moving across the water for 25 seconds. Does not work on land. Well, okay. 30-second cooldown. So in other words, you're going to be able to skim across for 25 seconds and then bob about for 5 seconds before you can start it off again. So it's like 25 seconds at a time, pit stop for 5 seconds and then carry on going. Really weird one there. Now the final thing to note out as well is that there is a device that has also popped up in both Horde and Alliance cities that allows you to deconstruct armor, okay, and weapons, deconstruct equipment into raw materials. Now, it's only working on limited items at the moment. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to work on in full. It's not working on quest items. It's not working on BOE items. The only items so far I've been able to get it to work on is crafted items. And as the only pieces of equipment I've been able to craft is with blacksmithing, that's the only thing I've been able to do, you know, breaking it down into ore. But this may be something that, let's say you're not an enchanter. This is how I envisage it happening. I don't know yet because it's not got full functionality. But enchanters, of course, I'm an enchanter and I get used to the fact that, you know, when I've got equipment that I'm no longer using or just acquire equipment that I can't use and can't give to someone else who can, then I just disenchant it. This potentially will allow people to deconstruct it into useful materials, or at least materials they can sell on the auction house without being an enchanter. So from that point of view, it actually sounds quite nice. So that's my roundup for the professions so far, the primary professions, of course, in Battle for Azeroth. Hopefully with each subsequent build they'll add more functionality to it and I can test it out in more detail. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're excited about some of these things. If you are, let me know in the comments below which one you're most excited to see. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share with other people who might also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.